freak out, and you're tuned into the Show, where I aspire to inspire your mind, body, and soul. And as you can see, and by the looks of all of these books, these are all the books I read, or I'm missing some, and so for 2022, I'm going to start writing the date or the month that I read the book in, because this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 11, 12. This is 12 books, but I know for a fact, I know there are 12 months in a year, but I read, in some months I read more than one book. So there probably should be like 13 to 15 books. But these are 12 of them that I have. So we're going to do our year-end review. As we know, I read a book a month. I've been doing that for 2 years now. And in 2022, my goal is to read more, like half more. So 6 extra books. So 18 books in the entire year. Instead of just having one per month, or 12 books, I want to read 18 in the year. So just kind of going to give a short review about each one. I read this book in the summer. It was short, and I think it was probably either June or July. And it was a rough time for me to finish a book. Like, it was a lot going on in my life at that time. So my friend actually bought this book for me, I want to say for my birthday. Probably my birthday. It's Pocket Wisdom about, like, from Michelle Obama. It's an unofficial book, so it's not like a book she wrote, but it's wise and inspirational words from Michelle Obama. This was a really cool little inspirational book. It has like different categories of women. So quotes she would say about women, about herself. I have never felt more confident in myself, more clear on who I am. I have never felt more confident in myself, more clear on who I am as a woman. And then it says when she said this, it was at a parade in August 2013. Or education, that's the one thing people can't take away from you, your education. And that was in 2016 that she said this. So it's just a lot of inspirational quotes, and it's a super easy read. It really would be something good to like read a couple of quotes a day to just kind of give you that inspiration. So I liked my little pocket wisdom about Michelle Obama, the forever first lady. I just read this book. They're not in a particular order either. I read this book in December. This is my December read. It's called 35 Dumb Things Well-Intended People Say. Now, this is by Maura, Cullen. This was a good book because, you know, you think that you're going to read it and it's going to be a bunch of stuff, stupid, insensitive stuff that white people say just that offend others. But it's not just about white people. It's about a lot of different people. And it's not just about black and white. It's about, you know, different communities and people who are just different from yourself. Like, there was one in here that I found myself using that term. And I was like, oh, well, you know, the intention, it says well-intended people. So the intention's not wrong. But even if the intention's not wrong, we got to kind of change our language around things. Change how we interact with people. So for each of the 35 things, there was the quote, and then the intent, so like the intent of what the person says, and then the impact, like how that impacts the community or the person that they're talking about. And then best bet would be like what you should actually do. So for each of them, they had those. I like this book. It was an easy read, but it was also very informative. So I would recommend this one too. I didn't read it in here. I read Relationship Goals Challenge, just to strengthen my own relationship. And I read Relationship Goals, just the book, and I've done devotionals and things, and I've watched the series and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of know the mindset of Pastor Michael Todd and his wife, Natalie. So this was a good read. This is just like a continuation of the other books. So if you're in a relationship, I would definitely recommend this. And it has places for you to go ahead and journal with your spouse or your partner. Journal as you go along. So this is a good one. Relationship Goals Challenge. I finally got around to reading this. This is my sister's book. She let me borrow this book a while ago. And actually, I need to give it back to her now because I read this over the summer. I want to say I read it over the summer. If you don't know, I'm a big fan of Autobiography. So this is the Autobiography of Gucci Mane. And I read this book. I'm not like the biggest Gucci Mane fan, but I do like reading about people's lives. So this was a good book. And it was pretty thick too. Like, he had a lot of life. So This is interesting if you want to pick this one up. I read this in November. Yep, More Than Enough. I really like this book. I have not, by Elaine Welteroth. I have never heard of her until this book, but come to find out she was on The Talk, I want to say. One of those talk shows. I want to say it's The Talk. She was the editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue. She's done a lot of things. She's friends with some of the celebrity people who I do know and follow. So I was like, oh. And she's actually, fun fact, she's actually pregnant right now, like in real time. I think this book was maybe like 2016, 2017. I don't know. But this was a good book. This is kind of like an autobiography about her as well. But also she just really is empowering women. And she's a woman of mixed race. So she's black and white. And so kind of just explaining how she navigated that throughout her whole entire life. And realizing that she's more than enough. Like sometimes she didn't feel like she always was. Or she didn't know her worth. Or she didn't pay attention to it. But it was a very inspiring book too. So I enjoyed this. On the come up. So Angie Thomas. My girl. Period. On the come up. Angie Thomas wrote The Hate You Give. So I found her. I was introduced to her. Not in real life, but I was introduced to her books through reading The Hate You Give. I read that book last year. One thing about Angie Thomas, she gonna write a big book. She gonna write a thick book with 400 something pages. That's okay, because this book was really good too. It gives you so much imagery. Like when I read, I like to envision what it's gonna look like. And so for The Hate You Give, obviously there was a movie to that, but I liked her book, The Hate You Give, more than I liked the movie. It was just more detailed. I mean, but obviously in the movie you only have so many hours you can talk about. So I really liked the book. There was a lot of comparisons in that. But on the come up, this was a really good book. She has some really good imagery that helps you feel like you can really connect with the characters. I like how she writes a lot. So Angie Thomas is my girl. I just ordered another book from her. So I'll be reading that in 2022. But I'll be reading a lot of books. Oh, it's actually right here on the thing. Concrete Rose. I'll be reading that next. And then Nick Stone. This is actually a woman, guys. Nick Stone. I was introduced to Nick Stone's books over this year too. And so now I've ordered a few more Nick Stone books because I like her. I like how she writes, and I like her fiction stories. And yep, best-selling author, New York Times best-selling author of Dear Martin. Dear Martin is the book I'm actually going to be reading in January. So I really like this book. I actually learned a lot about the Green Book. If you don't know what that is, kind of look it up. But it talks a lot about like segregation and stuff in the South and where you could go and where you couldn't go. So even though this was a fictional book, it was actually helpful in learning some information about history and stuff. So this was a good book. And I'm still reading Nick Stone books now too. That's one thing about learning over the past 2 years of reading these books. I found authors that I really, really like. You know, when I was a kid, I read, but I don't read those same type of books I read when I was a kid. Like I'm looking over in my bookshelf library, and I used to read a lot of like Lizzie McGuire books, Junie B. Jones, all of that stuff. Like obviously as an adult, I'm not reading that to like further expand my mind, but I liked that same type of book. And so now I like these kind of authors like Nick Stone and Angie Thomas. And so it's good to know that they're still writing and I'm finding more books out about them. This book is called The Enneagram in Love. I don't know. I read it sometime this year, obviously. A roadmap for building and strengthening romantic relationships. Now, this book was a little like complicated. It was a little interesting, I would say, because of how like the different types of personality types and then like what you would go with. So like there's like 9 personality types, and so it's like between 1 and 9. You got 1 and 1 and 1 and 3, and how these are compatible. So this was a cool book. It was okay. It wasn't really what I was expecting, but it kind of helped me learn my Enneagram and kind of like, it's kind of like the love languages. Like you have this type of personality, so this is what you need to do for this person that you know you're in a relationship with. So I think this is a really good book to learn relationships. It's a little bit more complicated than I feel it needs to be, so take with it what you will. Woman Evolve by Sarah Jakes Roberts. I just kind of came across Sarah Jakes Roberts in the past couple of years, but we read this actually in our Bible study, in our Women with Worth Bible study This was good. It gave a really good and different perspective on Eve. A lot of it was centered around Eve in the Bible and how we just look at her as so much of like a villain, but it gives a different perspective on it. So Woman Evolved was definitely great. And there are like study questions, working it out. Like each chapter has a working it out section where it asks questions for you to reflect on, and we would do that in Bible study and then just kind of come back and discuss. So it's good for a Bible study or for just like a book club read. If you're trying, if it's you have anything to do with spirituality and God and Christianity, like this is a great book. Break up with your fears and revolutionize your life. I read this in February. Why are all the black kids sitting together in the cafeteria and other conversations about race, by Beverly Daniel Tatum. Now this was one of my favorite books this year. It was so informative, but it helped me see things from a lot of different perspectives. I know it says where all the black kids sitting together in the cafeteria, but also it talks about a bunch of different races. And it's kind of like a informational nonfiction book that gives you facts and statistics. I love statistics, so it was good to hear about those things too. And I learned a lot. This is a really thick read as well, but it's very informational. So I think this could even, and it may even be used in like college textbook references and resources, especially if you're doing a black studies or a multicultural studies. This is a great book for that. I read The Pushout this year. The Criminalization of Black Girls in Schools by Monique Morris. And also this is another one that's informative, gives you nonfiction facts and statistics and things like that, and things you never even thought about. Okay. I thought it was saying this was the same author as The New Jim Crow, but it's not. It's a different author. But I was going to say I'm going to read that book in 2022 as well. So Pushout was a great book. Especially for me, I work with a lot of little black girls that I don't want to see them going through the system. So it really put things into perspective, and it gave me a lot more empathy and compassion, and put me in protective mode of like my little black girls who I counsel, who I'm their counselor. So that's another thing about 2022 is I kind of accumulated these books over the time of the year, but for 2022 I'm going to have at least 6 to 7 already books to start out with, so that I can set a plan of like, okay, I'm going to read this book this month, this book, instead of just kind of like going with the flow and buying a new book each month. I already have like enough to kind of start me out with the new year. And last but not least was Smart Women Love Money, 5 Simple Life-Changing Rules of Investing by Alice Finn. Now this is pretty simple. I got this book because I had started investing maybe like September, October area time. I've already been investing in like Acorns and Robinhood and things like that, but I started investing like in mutual funds. So I wanted to get a book to learn more about it. You know, I don't want to just come in there blindly. Obviously you have a financial advisor and things like that, but I wanted to learn for myself. And I also wanted to learn from a woman, because there's a lot of perspectives and things that men or people in general don't think you can do this thing, or don't think you're competent enough because you're a woman to handle finances and things like that. One thing about me, I'm going to be financially responsible for myself, period. So that's why I like Smart Women Love Money, because it helped me kind of get into that a little bit more. And it wasn't even really a boring read. Like all the books this year, I know last year I read a book or two that was like, I read it, but I wouldn't recommend. But I would pretty much recommend all of these books, depending on what you're kind of looking for. Like I said, the Enneagram in Love, it's a little more complicated than I was looking for, but still a cool book. Other than that, I enjoyed all the books I read this year, and I can't wait, and I look forward to doing another video at the end of 2022 about all the books I read in that year. I'll leave the names of all the books down in the comment section, so if you're looking for them with the author, you can find them. But let me know if you have any questions also in the comment section. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell that is right next to the subscribe button, so you're notified every single time I post a video. See you guys next time. Bye.